Hello and welcome to Springboard, your virtual university. My name is Albert Ocran, welcoming you on behalf of Team Springboard led by Comfort. This is your most inspirational show and the point of convergence for the greatest minds. Your virtual university is brought to you by the Springboard Roadshow Foundation in partnership with the Multimedia Group and proudly sponsored by MTN Pulse, UMB Bank, the Enterprise Group, with support from the graphic business. Today, we continue our executive hotline where we bring you busy executives, CEOs, and heads of institutions that you otherwise would not meet in your ordinary day-to-day life and ask them the questions that are on your mind. And earlier in the week, we announced that we'll be getting a very special guest. You sent loads and loads of questions. And it's my privilege to welcome into the studios Prince Kofi Amoabeng. Chief, good to see you.
Nice to be here.
Mr. Amoabeng needs no introduction, co-founder and former chief executive of UT Bank and UT Group of Companies. He's just written a book that I think is probably one of the hottest properties in the system today, the UT Story, Humble Beginnings, Volume 1. Obviously means that there's much more coming up. And if you want a gripping, no-holds-barred corporate story, this is the read. Chief, what made you write?
It's always been on my mind to write. I mean, I know that these Africans or Ghanaians don't read and all that, but that's the only way of leaving a legacy for the next generation. You have to document your exploits and things like that. So it's been on my mind way back. I think some 10 years ago, my ex-wife asked me if I'll write a book. And I look at him and say, why are you want a paragraph in a book or something? Is that why you're asking me? By the way. Then sometime back, maybe about, so I took the challenge up and I got a friend of mine to sort of start interviewing me and to put a book together. But at some point we have to shelve it because the two of us, we didn't agree on something. Like, he was a bit too opinionated, and I wanted a book that sticks to the facts. Then, of course, after UT, when I left UT Bank, before it was assumed, some 2 years later, it came to me again. But even before that, I wanted to write a book, but I wanted a book that has some significance. So when I chanced on Richard Branson's Virgin Galactica, and he says we should pay $200,000 and be one of the first people to be taken to space. I got interested and I said, I want to go to space. And then when I come back, I'll write a book, Kokrantomi to Space.
Wow.
But that's also the thing that happened. And about 5 years ago, I met this young man, George Bentumesiel, who came with a proposal that we should do some TV series or something of my life. And I said, no, I think what I want to do is to do a book. And he said, oh, he could do the book. And I looked at him and said, oh, have you written a book before? And he said, oh, he can give it a try. He's been trained, he's a trained journalist and so on and so forth. And brought quite a reasonable proposal. And I said, okay, let's try it. And for the past 3 years, we've been at it. First, we're going to write one book. Then it was like, the material that I have, I don't know where to, cut off and so on and so forth. Let's make it 2 books. Then it was like, no, 2 will even tell the whole story. So now what we have is 3 books that are coming. So, and this is volume 1.
I'll tell you what, for somebody who's done 26 and somebody who's run a publishing business for years, my criteria for judging a book, and I'll tell you for the benefit of the public, I always will start with the cover. The cover is super. I love the duality of your corporate on one hand, then the military on the other side. I like the simplicity of the cover design. Then I turn to the back to read about the book, about the author, and I like your guyish picture here. It's great. And then I go inside and I look at the quality of the print and the layout. And these are criteria I use to judge a good book before I even get to the content. And I must say that you and your team, George and the team, have done a fantastic job. And what I love about it is the candor. It talks about the issues as they are and takes you into. I found myself reading them in the middle of the night and leaning forward and imagining the scenarios as they unfolded. And I loved it.
Thank you so much.
Well
Coming from you, I feel really humbled. Yeah.
When I came to invite you for the grand convocation in February 2011, you spoke at the trade fair, 5th of February. And when I came to invite you, I asked you whether you would write.
Okay.
Or you forgot himself. I added my name to the story.
Probably I got it imprinted in my mind.
Who knows? Maybe the seed was there. Was there at the time. But fast forward, I think this is a great beginning. I'm looking forward to the sequel, the second and third edition. I want to encourage listeners and viewers to read it for themselves and travel the journey with you. But I want to pick out some key lessons that I feel are very key. My focus today is on the entrepreneurial journey. And I'll tell you why. I mean, before we got on air, I was telling you why I think it's absolutely imperative that we raise many more Ghanaian entrepreneurial stories. And that's why you are the perfect guest for this conversation. So, sir, let's talk about the beginnings, entrepreneurship. What sparked it in you? Was it Ocran to me? Was it somebody you saw? Was it something that... And this is coming, by the way, this is coming from Beatrice Pinion, Kenneth Otin Odey, and Brian Bibia on Facebook. They want to know, how did you feel when you started? What inspired you? And what led to you going into business?
Well, it's a good question. I went to school like every normal person, secondary school, university. Then if you read the book, you see that after university, I didn't know where I was going. My life wasn't anything to write home about. I was just close from national service work and the drinking and nightlife and all that. Then I took a decision that, listen, I think I need a bit of discipline. And the scholarship that I hoped I was going to get didn't come through. So then I applied to join the army to get a bit of discipline for myself. So it was self-introspection which took me to the military. Now, when I joined the military, I loved the military. I wasn't going to come out of the military. But then the events of June 4th and then later on PNDC and things made me walk out of the military. So I walked out of the institution that I loved. And there were no jobs at the time. There was the 83, Rollins chain and hunger and things like that. So I went into business by default. It wasn't like I was born to be a business person. No. I think mine was purely by default. And when I didn't have anything to do because I left the army without plan B, then my next door neighbor, who was a businessman, became my very close friend because those days we had curfews. So you close early and you had nowhere to go. So I walked to the next door neighbor. Who was that? It's called Emmanuel Tete. And
What was he into?
He was into all sorts of businesses. Basically buy and sell. He would order those days calculators from Germany where he had stayed a bit and then he was selling them. So I became his assistant in selling calculators. Then he said he had registered a sawmill and I should be part of it. And he liked my availability because those days all business people were afraid of soldiers and what they could do to them. And me coming from the army, I didn't have any fear for the soldiers, so I was sort of protecting him. And then I was also learning the business of doing business in Ghana. So that's how I got into business, by default. And as I've put in the book, for about 15 years, I was in the business wilderness, learning and doing all kinds of businesses.
Give me an idea about the color, the size, and the shape of what you call the business wilderness. What did you try? How was it like?
It lasted for 15 years before I started Unique Trust. And when I started, as I said, so buy and sell, then went into sawmill. Then I broke off with my original partner. But before that, we did all sorts of businesses. We imported electrodes from Ivory Coast to sell. I was into air conditioning business. I was into construction, both road construction and civil. I was into oil business, both midstream and downstream, as being dealer at the petrol station. I went to importation of wines, which got into trouble, which is in the book. I did almost everything, and it was to actually prepare me for what I had to do in hindsight. Because 15 years of doing all kinds of businesses, failing in most of them, doing new ones, and so on and so forth. When I started Unit Trust, I realized that I had been through serious and rigorous training. Because then I was a businessman, a practitioner in the SME sector, trying to fund that sector.
I am interested in the part you just described because I'm sure that as you speak, there are people listening who are saying, he's telling my story. What does the person in the wilderness do? Because you say with the benefit of hindsight, that means that you must have been thinking differently at the time when you were hustling. So in those 15 years, and that's 15 years of your prime, the prime of your life.
Yeah.
I mean, you've gone to a disco, you believe yourself.
Yeah.
You're selling calculators, selling oil, doing some, all kinds of stuff.
I was a graduate, I was a chartered accountant, I was a retired army officer, and I was selling wines.
Good looking.
Well, I don't know about that. Thank you very much.
But by the way, you look very, very good for your age. And I've commented on it a couple of times. I think that God has been good to you.
Absolutely.
You've been good to yourself too.
It's all God's blessings. Yeah.
Wonderful. So in those 15 years, how did you feel?
Well, I was basically a hustler. I was trying to find something to do, and I was trying to create opportunities and basically to make money. But I could have made money earlier on because I had a lot of opportunities like importation of the wines, the air conditioning business, and so on and so forth. But I realized that I always came to this stop, the stumbling block, and that was funding. But when you be able to create a business, you need the funding to back it up. And it was very difficult all the time. And I think it got to a point where it hit me that, listen, instead of being turned down all the time, what does it entail? You're a chartered accountant, you've done school of administration, and you know about accounting and administration and management, and you have all this expertise. Why don't you help the people that are like you? Because I said, if as a chartered accountant, retired army officer, and with all the experience that I had, if I couldn't raise money from the financial institution, i.e. the banks, then certainly almost all the people in the business sector and individuals might be suffering. So I will change it. Now, this is what I normally call the call. I think we all get the call at some point, so many times, or maybe at some point or the other, where something irritates you and you have sleepless nights, you can't sleep at night. It's a call for you to do something about it if you have what it takes to do it. Because the other businesses, all the businesses that we were talking about, I wasn't passionate about them. I was just doing them because there were good margins to be made or returns to be made in those businesses. But when you have a business which is a core, which you want to do to change the effect on humanity, that brings the passion.
One of the things that thrills me and scares me at the same time, is when a person can see the same thing and say the same thing again after 10 years without blinking an eye. And I'm going to play back to you exactly what you said 10 years ago, in fact, the 5th of February 2011. Let me read the transcript of what you said and play it for you, sir. You said, if you love what you are doing and you love the people that you are doing it for, and you offer what you love to the people you love, you cannot fail.
Absolutely.
And that is what you are describing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I say is passion.
So you call it passion.
Yeah, the passion comes from, I say, two loves. Love the product or the service you're providing. And then love the people that are benefiting from it. So if naturally you love people, you want to see people do better. That is one side of it. But then how do you help them to do better? By having a product or service that you know will affect their lives and make their lives better.
Have you believed this all your life? Because you are very certain about this.
I think it came to me whilst I was doing business, because I did a lot of business, as I was saying, but none of them was executed in the way I started doing unit trust. Because fine, you want to do timber, so you go to the bush, and then you get some equipment and you want to cut timber to come and sell. For some people, that's the core, because they know that they can probably deliver the timber in a special way, different from what the people are doing. You see, it also comes with knowing that you are going to do it differently, and it's an improvement on what is existing. If you're going to do the same thing that everybody is doing, then there's no excitement.
So that is what led you to start UT.
I started UT because I was addressing a problem that I was facing, which I knew a lot of people were facing. I felt it wasn't right. And the banks were doing something wrong. And they were not listening to the people. They were not there for the people. They didn't love the people. They just after their money.
Would you call it a protest?
In a way, yeah. In a way. And I think we gave the banks a run for the money at some point in time, because when we were at our peak, every bank was discussing the UT phenomenon in their boardroom.
I know that for sure.
Yeah.
What do you think was the biggest? I think from every strategy session that I moderated, I made one reference from the UT story. And I think that was your biggest selling proposition. But let me find out if I'm consistent with what you think. What do you think was the one thing that made you stand out?
I think a loan in 48 hours.
I agree. That was it.
Because that was our biggest unique selling proposition. And you see, when you reflect on it, we are defined by the time we have on earth. Every human being, every plant. When your time is finished, it means you are no more here. So people will protect their time and even pay more for their time. And they feel respected when you respect their time. So when you want a facility and you say that I can do it for you in 48 hours, when it used to be about 3 months or something like that, you have endeared yourself to the people.
I recall it the day I came to invite you for the program. When I got there, I could see you were very busily signing transactions for people to receive their loans. And then we started a meeting. And then in the middle of the meeting, somebody just walked in and brought the document and said, Albert, hold them. And then you signed the document and said to me, if I don't do this, I can't meet my obligation for 48 hours processing. Did it define everything you did?
Yeah, once we put it out there that I'm doing 48 hours. And before we did put it out there, we had experimented with it and knew we could do our loans at least 90% in 48 hours. And once you make a commitment to the people, you must actually respond to it. You must commit to it. You just don't put it out there. And so we had situations where even during board meetings, I will ask the board to hold on, and then we sign documents and then continue the board meeting. Because you must keep to the deadline.
Was it done to communicate to those around you?
Absolutely.
The importance that it held for you?
Absolutely. Because you see, you are the number one staff. And how you respond to the policies and rules of the company is a message to everybody else. And in any case, if I do it and you don't do it, you have a lot of explanation to do.
Did it put pressure on you?
In a way, it did. But the business had consumed me, had taken my whole life. So I would do what was right and set the tone.
And what was wrong as well?
No, not what was wrong, really. What was wrong, we all have faults. So by default, you could do something that is wrong. But not deliberate. If you know it's against the company policy, you dare not do it.
Let's talk about company policy. Your methods were the big discussion at the time. I mean, it was thought that some of the things you did were crazy. I mean, they used to describe you as a crazy man. Did you know that?
Yeah, they've called me all sorts of names, but...
it didn't bother you?
No, not at all. You see, one thing, Reverend, is that when people say you are crazy or you are bad, it means they are not finding ways of taking advantage of you.
Tell me about that.
It's as simple as that. When they say this man, oh, you don't mind him, he's crazy, so it means they are not getting their way with you. So stay the way you are. So if they say it's a very nice man, it means, oh, no, you are messing up.
This is a new one. So for you, the being called the crazy Kofi Amoabeng at the time motivated you.
Was very good. I said, stay the same.
For the benefit of those who don't know, let's talk about some of your recovery approaches and the things that gave you made you quite infamous. What inspired them? I mean, looking back, what inspired them? Was it the same protest as how things were done, or was it seen as a necessary evil in quotes to keep the business on course?
It was very simple, and I don't understand why some Ghanaians don't understand. We went to people who believed in our dream and our vision to literally beg them for their savings and lifetime, whatever earnings. And we had promised them that we'll pay them the money back plus interest on it. It was a firm process. So we had two sets of clients, those who provided the funds and those who needed the funds. Now, when we have taken people's monies on trust, and we come to you and we listen to your problem and say, listen, I think the problem can be solved like this, and we'll give you these people's monies, and you walk away with it. I think the least you should expect these borrowers to do is, if something should go wrong, they should come back or call you and to discuss the issue. But it is quite annoying and disrespectful, to say the least, when after you've done that and it's time for them to pay, they just don't bother. And we have to now find time to go and look for them.
Do you think it's cultural?
It is cultural in a way. Some people walk into your offices to take a loan knowing that they don't want to pay.
Why?
Some people think, any money was available, when I'm hot, I should go and take it and chop it. Because when they take the money, you'll be surprised the kind of things they do with some of them. They probably buy a new car, marry a new woman, or build a house, or go for funeral. Or if the uncle dies or somebody dies, then forget it, your money is gone. And they go and you see them in big clothes with chains and things that with women following them. And it's your money that they use it for that.
Did you sometimes see clients who are
yeah.
You at funerals? How do you make it feel?
No. If you are owing at the time, I'll confront you there.
Right at the funeral?
At the funeral. One client came to, I couldn't find. When my mother died, stupidly enough, he came there because he thought that was when I was at the weakest point. And he was greeting. I saw him coming, so I got up and said, cut out this bullshit. You know you owe me. Stay here.
Are you serious?
Yeah, of course.
Your mother's funeral?
Oh, yeah.
You weren't chasing your money?
He was owing me.
You know how the young people say, you do all.
So we had to put some discipline in that. Interestingly enough, some of my clients said I discipline them when it comes to money and managing their businesses.
When I come back from this break, I'm going to find out whether, with the benefit of hindsight, if you had to do this again, and there's a number of questions that are asking the same question, that if you had to do this again, would you use the same approach? And then find out from you, looking back at some of the incredible successes that you achieved, and also some of the bottlenecks that you faced. What lessons can young people seeking to go into business glean? And that, for me, is the crux of the matter. This is Springboard, your virtual university, and I'm enjoying my conversation with Prince Kofi Amoabeng, founder and former CEO of the UT Bank and UT Group of Companies, as we digest the UT story. I mean, you and I know we can't finish this, but let's get some entrepreneurial lessons and let's see how we can inspire many more authentic Ghanaian entrepreneurial stories. Please enjoy.
Don't be left out. Download the Pulse app from the App Store or Play Store to mash up all day, every day. You can also enjoy more mashup. Just buy the new Mega Bundle and get 3 gigabytes data, extra 400 megabytes for your social apps, and free MTN to MTN calls every Monday. So go ahead, feel the pulse on MTN Pulse. Just be. We're good together. Everywhere you go.
There once was a man who had it all. skill, he had charisma. He was loved by all, but above all, he knew the importance of helping others, lifting others up. He knew the importance of giving other people an advantage so that they too would use that advantage to help others. All you need is that advantage that sets you apart from the rest. And when you discover that advantage, life's challenges don't seem so daunting anymore. That's where we come in. Enterprise, your advantage.
UMB was established in 1972 as the premier bank for the corporate and private sector in Ghana. From our very beginning, as the only Ghanaian bank serving all categories of businesses, we set a standard for excellence and innovation. Over the past 45 years, we've built a financially healthy and strong bank, demonstrated our commitment to our customers and to growing businesses, and exhibited originality and innovation at every turn. At UMB, our focus is built around people, service, products and technology. These are the key to our present success and our future triumphs. At UMB, we're poised to make a difference not only with our customers, but also in the banking industry. We invite you to share in our future. Our future starts now with you.
Welcome back to Springboard, your virtual university, and to this absolutely brilliant conversation with Prince Kofi Amoabeng, my guest for today on the executive hotline. This is the phone. You ask the questions, I transfer them to him, and I get the answers, and I ask my follow-up questions. And we are trying to find out the entrepreneurial lessons in his journey and using them as springboards for young entrepreneurs, people who are struggling in their own wilderness, to help you to navigate your way to the top. Just to recap a few of the lessons that we've garnered so far on this journey. The first one is about legacy. He says, I always wanted to write as a legacy for the next generation, but he didn't feel that the time was right at the time, but now he feels a compelling need to do it. The second one was the military motivation. He says, I was directionless after national service, drinking and sliding downwards, but I went into the military looking for discipline, and I walked out in protest without a plan B. Third lesson is about the business wilderness. One of my favorites says for 15 years, he spent his time buying and selling, operating a sawmill, doing construction, sawmill imports and exports of electricals, air conditioners, construction, oil, and then the wines.
Yep.
And he says a number of these businesses failed, and for 15 years he calls it the wilderness. And so by the time he started UT, he was a well-baked entrepreneur. The fourth lesson is about what he calls the protest. He says he started UT in protest. If he was a graduate, a chartered accountant, and a retired military officer and could not get access to loans, what about the ordinary man? And so instead of complaining, he set out to solve the problem. The fifth was what he called the call. And I like the fact that he calls it a calling. He says, ask yourself, what do you love doing? And then secondly, ask yourself, do you love people? And once you answer those two questions, if you offer what you love to the people you love, you can't fail in business. Did I say it correctly?
Absolutely.
Beautiful. And this is the lesson that I said you shared 10 years ago in the same way, and you still are holding on to the same point. The sixth was about what was his unique selling proposition or what he did differently. And I call that the audacity of the promise. He says the loan in 48 hours was the game changer for him. And people feel respected when you respect their time and deliver for them in 2 days what they ordinarily would get in 3 months. And that was the biggest selling proposition. I asked him about the unorthodox recovery methods, and he says that on one hand, he was holding the life savings of people who had trusted him, and on the other hand, giving money to people who had come with genuine intent to collect the money. And they must keep their promise, so those who trusted him do not get disappointed. If it meant chasing you at his mother's funeral, he will do it. And he actually did it. And that's when I say you do all. You ended by saying you were consumed by the business. What does it mean?
It simply means, I found myself in the right place and touching people's lives. Not just my staff or the people working for me, but you could see the effect on businesses and employment and putting food on people's table. It's a very beautiful feeling. And you want to do more, and you dedicate your life to it.
I remember the first person who impressed me with the word Ubuntu was yourself. And it was almost like a revelation that you have gotten. And by the law of attraction, once you mentioned that word and you explained why it meant so much to you, I began to look out for it, look at other countries where it was such a big deal. What was it about Ubuntu? Is it related to what you just said? That feeling
Absolutely.
Of impacting people, transforming people by doing business.
Yeah, Ubuntu, as you know, is I am who I am because of you, and it says it's one world, and we're here to impact each other and make the world a better place. So it's about sharing, being responsible for each other, and so on and so forth. And when you're in a position where you know that you are touching people's lives positively, it's a very unique and enjoyable place to be. So you want to give more and more of yourself.
Do you think you were misunderstood at the peak of your business?
Some people, those who said, "Oh, don't mind him," and then you go for a loan, and then you can't pay, and then you take your property. They certainly understand, but they were not my problem, because we never ever went to someone and said, "Go and take your property and come and take a loan." In natural fact, we tended to send people away because they didn't qualify to take the loan because they couldn't pay. So the wider public or our clients, the customers, we were satisfying definitely, and they were very happy with us. And we used to have all sort of cocktails and parties and things and shared common interests and things like that. So I don't worry about those who didn't understand us. I just kept going, satisfying people and letting people appreciate what we were doing.
So David Suter on Facebook asks a question. He says, given the opportunity, what would you have done differently to safeguard the UT dream and legacy?
It's a question which comes up again and again. You see, I can't change who I am. And I think I did the things I did because of my training from childbirth, through schools, university, military. It gave me certain characteristics. It gave me love for people, discipline, and applied it. I believe in systems, institutions, processes, policies, but I also love people. That part, I don't put it in front. You have to put a hard part in front so that people won't take undue advantage of you. And when I appoint people or put people in place, I trust them and I give them the leeway to do their best. And unless they really, really mess up, I always give them a second chance or something like that. So what I mean is that my position of trusting people and giving them roles and giving them responsibilities, it won't change. So there were things that I probably have looked at again. Like now, you don't probably give responsibility and give them too much room to operate on their own, because most of the problems that we had came out of mistrust. Whilst we trusted them, maybe the people shouldn't have been trusted that much. So then I've learned lessons there as to how far you trust people and give them roles, and you probably have to rein them in a bit.
Did people let you down?
Oh yeah, but it's the order of the day. People that you trusted didn't do what you felt they should have done.
Internally or externally?
Internally and externally. I have some of the staff that I trusted that later when I got to the thing they had done, I said, wow. So I had to be looking behind me all the time. I didn't do that. And then, of course, with what happened outside too, I'm surprised about the way people have gone about it. But it's okay. If we shut down my company. You haven't shut me down. You shut the company down, and you've used the system to shut it down. So I have to deal with it.
You're looking very content, very relaxed, and if I may add, almost very. Are you happy?
I'm a very, very happy person.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it and why you're happy.
I think, how do I go about? I think, you see, we come into the world because the Creator thinks or believes that we can add something to the world. And I look at my life and know how my life has been useful, has been made useful to people. So at least I haven't disappointed the Creator. He's used me to touch lives and to change the world a bit. And I also wonder why, for example, I'm the way I am. I don't fall sick. I do as
Do you feel blessed?
Absolutely, more than blessed. You know, so I'm happy and content. The only time that I feel that things should have gone better is when it comes to some of the investors who believed in the dream, who lost money because they believed in me and so and so. But at least I did my best under the circumstances, and I can't change it. But when it comes to me and what God has done with me and my life and the blessings He's given me, it's beyond bounds. I will never understand.
Let me explore a theme that crossed my mind because Eddie and Sam asked whether you think your exit from the bank led to the eventual collapse. And I want to juxtapose that against Joe Adams Jr., who asked a similar question. He says, why did you exit so early, knowing the history of entities and how the founder exits and hands over the mantle and does not necessarily go the way they expected? He says that he was watching TV and when he saw that you said you had handed over, he predicted that it would collapse. I mean, that is, I'm dramatizing it a bit, but he almost says he assumed it would and was not surprised. Do you share the thoughts of Joe Adams and by extension Elias?
The bank wasn't doing well. And part of the restructuring, I offered that, listen, I think I've been from the beginning all the way to now. They say that if water stays too long in a bottle, it gets scent, or scent comes in and so. And I said, maybe I've stayed too long. So part of trying to restructure the bank and put the bank back was me exiting. That's how I saw it. That let's get fresh pair of hands, fresh eyes and things like to come and see what the problem is and try and solve it. So the problem started when I was there. And I left to give I thought that leaving was to give a better chance to the company to pick up again.
Right. Yeah. So from where you sit, it was not necessarily your exit that led to.
The exit was supposed to bring the bank back, but actually exacerbated its demise.
A point you made 10 years ago in your submission at the Trade Fair Center, the Springboard Grand Finale, you talked about the 3 stages of UT, starting unique trust out of your frustration and curiosity. Then you talked about growing it and dealing with lack of structures and institutions and having to sketch the routes to people's houses. Then you talked about the opportunities and challenges of fusing a successful model into a new bank. With the benefit of 10 years from when you spoke, at that time the bank had started and you were gaining momentum. With the benefit of 10 years, would you say that the change from the successful unique trust model to the UT bank reduced your sharpness, or the transition of the model did not come out as well as you would have liked?
Yes and no. You see, the transition to the bank had its own problems, a lot of them. We saw most of them, but obviously we didn't see the whole spectrum. We took over a bank, an existing bank, which was an ailing bank, because if it's not in that stage, you can't take it back. So we took that bank over. And then we merged it with UT Financial Services. Between the bank, the old bank and UT Financial Services, we didn't have what the regulator calls bankers, top bankers, because we were not bankers. And the bank, the old bank, had lost its top people. So we had to now poach bankers from various banks, from Access, from Steinchart, from UBA, from all sort of banks. Now, I think that was our biggest problem, if you ask me. Now, what made us succeed was the unique culture that we had created. Culture of openness, of Ubuntu, of respect for all, of integrity. Now, all of a sudden, there are about 200 more people just joining. When you have a culture and you're growing organically, it's easy for you to infect the 2-3 people who come in and so forth. But when you have 200 coming in, and some of them coming in to sit at the very top, heads of all the departments. So they come with their own cultures. And the culture that they brought clashed with our culture. So that for me was the biggest problem that we had. So whilst I was leading a culture that was unique to us, then comes this departmental head who then breaks the chain and then institutes his or her own culture. And then also there were the processes that had to change because we're now a bank, for example. First, UT Financial said, we'll give you your money and you bring it back. Now we had to go into relationship banking because we want you to keep deposits there and so on. So we had a lot of issues, which is going to come out in the third book. Now, when we're going to banking, we were all very much excited about it because I remember we were at a strategy session when one person, I don't remember who said, sir, why don't we go into banking? And the whole place went quiet. Because we never thought of going to banking. I had even said somewhere that we didn't go into banking because it was banking that actually
led to the protest.
Exactly. We were protesting against banking. Why do we join them? But the guy made a very salient contribution. He said, clients will come to us. We do a loan for them in 48 hours. Then they take the money and go and deposit in the bank and ask for an LC, letter of credit. So if we get into a bank, we don't have to do a loan for them. We just give a letter of credit. And we can do it faster. And then we save them monies. And I said, wow, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Because they'll be paying for our money, the interest on our money, and also paying for LC charges. But really, the bank just keeps the money for free and receives the good before they honor the LC. So those were some of the very strong points that they did. So then we had to change our idea of not going to bank and said, no, let's take them on and change the whole situation for the betterment of Ghanaians or for business people. So to come back to your point, yes, I think we went there with the right reasons and tackled the problems as we came along. So I wouldn't have changed. Would have done the same thing. But if I have to start again now, I'll probably if I get there, I'll say, hold on. And of course I will know what to do from the lessons that we've learned.
What is in this for the young entrepreneur listening right now? Should they stay small? Should they not grow too big? When is optimum?
By all means, let them grow. When the opportunities are there, the market is there, and you see how your products or services are affecting society and so on and so forth, you have a passion for it, let it grow. But I read a book which is called Sapiens, written by an anthropologist, and it says, for any human endeavor, when you reach the figure of 150, you must reinvent yourself. UT grew to a point where we're about 200. We didn't reinvent ourselves. Rather, we added a bank and other stuff to it, so that we're probably maybe about, for the bank, we were about maybe 600 people. And we were more or less doing the same thing, trying to run it with a great culture and trust and so on and so forth. So, to your question, definitely the opportunity is there, the market is there, and people love whatever you're doing. Grow, but watch at some point you must reinvent yourself. And an example really which is working very well, is the churches. So they go into franchising or something like that. So you have a church, you're a pastor, you identify a place that you want to go and set up. You have some basic rules that you have to keep. You keep the name and this and standards so you don't bring the brand down. That's one way of reinventing yourself. So you look at ways of reinventing yourself. Unfortunately, and this is sad, but I don't blame them. What I realized that most Ghanaian businessmen, or some Ghanaian businessmen, as soon as they reach a stage, then they start employing Indians and Chinese to work for them because they cannot trust Ghanaians. It's a way of reinventing yourself, but it is sad as a Ghanaian. So let me finish and say, yes, grow as much as you can, but look at the environment and reinvent yourself when it gets to a figure 150.
This is a magic number, and I'm sure somebody's written down the number and circled it with red pen.
Yeah.
First, let's talk about two things, and then I'll let you go for today, and then wait for the second book. Two things that are on my mind. One is the point where things were imploding, and the second is post the bank being closed down. Let's talk about at the point where things were unraveling. How did you feel?
It was not a good feeling, and it was gradual, and I saw it. Because you realize that when you start making losses, then it means your capital is going away. But that wasn't the biggest thing, because wealth doesn't really mean much. But then the capital goes away to a point where you know that the bank is now dependent on depositors' money. That is deadly. So something had to be done quickly to change the situation or to reverse it. That is it's really, really bad. And what do I say? I mean, it gets you down because you've dedicated your life to build a whole institution, a business empire. And I thought my attention was on the other subsidiaries, keeping to the brand and not letting it affect the bank. I didn't know that the bank was going to actually create a problem and let it affect the others. Because the bank was a flagship. And that was where I was sitting as CEO. And so when I saw things going the way it was going, it was really, it was deafening and it was something. That's why, let me say this. I had wanted to exit when I was 60. And I had told people that if the rule is 60, you go on pension. Me, 60, I'm going. But I couldn't go at 60.
Why?
Because at 60, we had become a bank and gone public, and we had to meet new capital requirement, and IFC and DEG wanted to be shareholders. One of the covenants was that I had to stay for at least 2 more years.
I'll tell you what, I bought shares in UT, and I have no regrets. I was very proud to buy shares in a company that was doing so much magic, if I may use that word. And just to say that you were like a class prefect at the time. If you will remember, 2009 when you were voted CEO, the most respected CEO in the country. Those awards meant a lot because it wasn't just awards that were voted by people still somewhere. It was peers voting for the one that they thought was their class prefect. And I was honored to be voted the 7th most respected CEO at the time. Those were my business days before I became also. So I know what you represented for all of us at the time. And it was at 60 that you came to speak at the trade fair, and you were full of life, wearing your green t-shirt, and you had no intention to retire at the time. But looking back now, could you have walked away?
Yeah, I meant to walk away. You see, you're going to walk away from this life. So you don't get too attached to things. Material things, companies. You have formed it, yes, but you hand over to the next generation. And I was ready to walk away. But they didn't let me walk away, as I was saying. And so when the bank started going down, the first thing I looked at was myself. Have I overstayed? Have I gone stale because I'm past 60? And I told my board, I said, listen, I think if we are restructuring this bank, I want to step down so that the board can appoint somebody new with fresh ideas, dynamic, to turn the fortune of the bank around.
Let me end with with you now? You will be 70 shortly.
In February.
In February, in a couple of months' time.
Yeah.
I tell you what, you've lived the life.
The 70 is what I've done it all.
What would be? Do you feel that you have imprinted your footprints in the sands of time?
Yes, but I'm not done with it.
What's next for you?
I have to finish the books.
Okay.
And other follow-ups. And I'm well and I'm fit.
So
in life, the first part of your life is to try and attain success. The second part is to be significant. And trying to attain success, that doesn't mean you're not significant, but the second part where you've achieved something is to actually have more impact on society. It's more about impacting people and impacting generations than achieving success. So I think I'm there. So my life now is how I can use it to impact the next generation and other businesses and humanity generally.
So the books will be one of the centerpiece projects of your life.
Absolutely.
Are you going to go into banking again?
Not in the role that you saw me 10 years ago, waking up in the morning and chase a CEO, never. But I think if some financial institutions need my expertise, I'll sit on a board or whatever, I'll look at it. But I think I have a lot of expertise to throw around.
How do you spend your day these days?
I play golf 3 or 4 times in a week. In fact, this book is taking me off golf a bit. I have to check and put it back. So an ordinary day, I wake up in the morning. Once a week, I'll go to the gym. And then I play golf 4 times in a week. Then I go to the office every day, weekday, but I go there pretending I'm working. Because I don't do much compared to what I was doing. I mean, it's proper life here. I go and sit there, check mail, check WhatsApp, Instagram.
Is it withdrawal symptoms?
With WhatsApp.
I once heard former President Rawlings talk about the fact that when he left the presidency, he was driving on the Liberation Road and he found himself branching to the castle. So he reminded himself that he's no longer in office. And he says, Charlie, it was like a confusing state for him. Do you find yourself sometimes?
No, I don't. Because, I retired 2 months before the bank was assumed. So I was fitting into the retirement role. So it was just a continuation of it.
Right. In the next 5 years of your life, you're working on the book and other things that you want to leave a legacy with. All said and done, if any of my listeners, my viewers, sat in front of you and said, Senior, I've enjoyed listening to you for the past hour, but leave me with one lesson that can make me the next Kofi Amoabeng or the next mega story, entrepreneurial story in Ghana, how will you tell them? You tell them.
Now, I would say that, everyone is created special and you're supposed to find your role in life. Because the Creator put you here only because He knows that where He started you from, the parents and wherever you're born, you are destined to create something to add to His creation. So you have to look for it. And I think the easiest thing is for younger people, go through education, keep learning. Don't rush into situations because you never stop learning. And whilst you're learning, of course, it makes you someone special. You have an expertise and a uniqueness that is you. After that, listen to the core. What don't you like in the system? What irritates you as you go about your business and your life? Ask yourself, do I have the training, the qualification to change it? What am I going to do differently about it to improve the lives of people? If you get it right, you'll be bigger than me.
Very, very beautiful notes on which to end this amazing conversation. If you have been listening, this has been Springboard Virtual University, the executive hotline. I'm holding the phone and listening to your calls and your questions and passing them on to Prince Kofi Amoabeng, author of this incredible book. And on your screen, I'm showing you the various places where you can get the book. I am personally endorsing this book and saying, listen, trust me, read this book. I've not even delved into probably a tenth of what is in this book. And I love books. I mean, if you ever saw me at the airport with excess luggage, it will be books all the way. And I think you've done a great service to this nation and to humanity in writing. And I agree with you that the project is just begun, and there's so much more that we can glean. I suspect after writing the 3 books about UT, you will write about other things that you think the world can benefit from. Now, if you've been listening, these are the thoughts that I have gleaned from Prince Kofi Amoabeng. First, he says, I've always wanted to write, talking about legacy and significance. I've always wanted to write as a legacy for the next generation, and I didn't feel ready, but now is the time. Second one is about the military. He says he went into it directionless, looking for discipline, and walked away in protest because the military wasn't the military that he planned to go into at the time. The third one was about the business world and his 15 years of trying different things, failed at some, and learning entrepreneurship. And he says, you started UT at what age?
45.
45. After trying 15 years of different businesses. And he started in protest because considering what he had as a person, if he couldn't get financial resources or support, then how much more the ordinary person? So he set out to solve a personal problem for himself and then for others. The fifth was what he calls the call. Love people, find a product you love or a solution that you love, and then offer that solution to the people that you love, and you can't fail in business. The sixth was the audacity of a promise. The unique selling proposition of a loan in 48 hours is what endeared his business to the people that he served because he valued and respected their time. The seventh is about unorthodox recovery methods. He says that was a responsibility that he took on because he found himself between 2 stakeholders, those who had trusted him with their money and those who were looking for solutions and had to keep their side of the bargain. And I love the part about I'm thinking about your mother's funeral. With your cloth, your black cloth, and crying, and yes, you change the default to crying. The 8th is about Ubuntu. It says that we are in a world where you are supposed to leave an impact and make the world a better place. And it was a good feeling creating a business, serving people, employing people, and solving problems. And that was a special feeling. 9 is about people. It says, I believe in systems, I believe in institutions, I believe in property, but I believe even more in people. And he admits that some people that he trusted and let him down. The 10th is about culture. He says, culture can grow organically, and as you grow, it can be infused with the people that you are working with. But when 200 people are thrown into the business at once, they come with different cultures, and that can be very challenging for an existing organization because it dilutes the culture and creates difficulties. The 11th point is about growth. He says, grow your business, but know the optimum point, and at that point, reinvent. And the recommendation is that optimum point is often 150 people. When you get there, pause and reinvent, or you could find difficulty. And he says the churches are doing that franchising model very well. The 12th, guess what? Everyone is unique, specially created by God. Find that thing that you are created to do, but first gain some education and then go after that call and ask yourself, are you well prepared to solve that problem that you are trying to solve? If you are, and you go for it, you'll be even bigger than Prince Kofi Amoabeng. Have I said it well?
Absolutely fantastic.
It's been beautiful. Let's do this again.
Whenever you want me, I will be there.
You promise?
Absolutely.
Right. This has been Springboard, your virtual university. Go get the book and read it and recommend it to your friend. Buy it on Amazon, buy it on Book Nook. Get the book and read it and share your thoughts on social media. Which lessons in the book are firing you up? And which of these 12, we normally do 10, but today we added 2 because it's a big businessman. So 12 lessons. Which of these 12 lessons really, really has touched you today? Let's do this again. This has been Springboard, brought to you by the Springboard Roadshow Foundation in partnership with the Multimedia Group and proudly sponsored by MTN Pulse, the Enterprise Group, UMB Bank, and the Graphic Business. On Tuesday, page 18 of the Graphic Business, one full page dedicated to Prince Kofi Amoabeng and this story that can't stop giving. Read it and let's continue this conversation. My name is Albert Ocran, saying God bless you, and God bless you.